Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. Today, we have a very special guest, Wendy, with us. She has just recently closed on an acquisition of her own and was gracious enough to come and stop by and talk with us and just to get a little bit more of her story, her experiences, those types of things as I mean, what are you, less than a month out from owning this firm, Wendy?
Yeah, 26 days.
26 days. So, Wendy, thank you for joining us. Let's go ahead and just kind of dive right into it, maybe really quickly. You could kind of give just people, kind of a quick introduction about yourself.
Sure. I've been in accounting for the last 20 years, and for about the last 10 of those years, I've been working as a corporate controller for a commercial contractor. And I started my business while I was still working with him back in 2018, and I grew. And eventually I had a conversation with my boss, and I had told him that I had started this firm. He was super excited for me and said, can I be a client? Can we still work together? And that was so amazing. And it gave me so much confidence to kind of push even further. And I left him in 2021, and I've kind of been on my own ever since, working and getting more clients and things. And so it's been a great experience. We currently have 20 clients now, before the acquisition. And I had a part-time bookkeeper, and a very, very part-time admin that were helping me kind of manage the books and the clients and things.
Awesome. And just so everybody knows, what's the name of your firm and what services do you offer?
It's Oak Accounting Group, and we're all virtual. It's mainly bookkeeping and standard bookkeeping services, and we offer some back office. I have two clients that we did that for. The rest of the mix of clients was kind of just regular bookkeeping, payroll, sales tax, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And Our mix was a lot of property management, real estate, construction, and some hospitality. We have a franchise hotel and an RV park as well.
Gotcha.
We have
Gotcha.
a little
Okay.
mix of everything.
Well, let's kind of slow down the clock a little bit, rewind the hands of time a little bit. Wendy, where are you from? Where did you grow up? And kind of how did you land into, first of all, that corporate controller role? Just kind of a little bit of that journey.
So I was born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida, and I lived there until 2021. We've got a ton of family on my mom's side that live here in Tennessee, where I'm at now, and as part of me kind of branching out and talking to my boss, I decided that I had my family, I had my mom and dad living with me at the time. And so I talked to them and I said, what do y'all think about moving to Tennessee? And they were like, oh, okay, sure. Yeah, let's do that. And I said, well, if I can get, so much from my house, we can make this work. And so I think everybody was really surprised that we that we went ahead and actually did it. And
Right.
so we moved to Tennessee back in 2021, and we've been here for 5.5 years. And I absolutely love this weather, and I love the environment. It's kind of a smaller town where we're at. And we're in East Tennessee, so I mean it's growing like every place else around, but it's still um, a little bit of a town. We're still a little bit just a small town, so even though it's
Mhm.
growing, it's still really a good place to be, and I enjoy it so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
But I back in gosh, in I was when I was a baby, I worked as an admin for this one company, and this lady that hired me, we ended up becoming super good friends. And after I left that company, a couple years had gone by, and she was working for the contractor that I eventually went to work for. And she called me up and she was like, because I was originally going to school for human resources. So I have a human resources degree, not an accounting degree. And I uh, I got my degree and everything, and then I kind of bounced around a little bit. I couldn't really find exactly where I wanted to be, and so my friend that worked at that other company called me and said, "Hey, we've got some HR over here. You could do some admin. Why don't you come over and talk to the guys, talk to the owners. And so I said, okay. So I went over there, I got the job, and that was in 2007. And I worked as basically her assistant plus the HR person. And one day she came to me and she said, "Why don't you learn some of this accounting?" And I was like, "I'm not good with numbers. I don't really, I don't think that's my deal." And she's like, "It's not really that." She's like, "It's running down vendor invoices and calling on customers that haven't paid and making deposits and kind of tying some things together." And so she started training me. And so I worked with her, and I think she was there about 2 years, and then she left, and then I kind of took over her role, and then it kind of grew from there. And so
Wow.
eventually I was, running the whole office. I was doing all of the HR, all of the office management, all of the accounting and the bookkeeping. And then I was working with the CPA that they use to do their taxes. And so I was able to learn a lot of stuff from them too, and, kind of pulling things together. And so I always kind of joke that the boss I had, he was great, but it was also a little overwhelming because he was really hands off. And so he was like, just kind of figure it out, so it didn't matter what it was, whether it was accounting or insurance or, we have an audit for, our work comp insurance, so it was just kind of like you figure it out. So it was great because it exposed me to so many things and I learned so much. And
Mhm.
then as his business grew, the accounting got more and more complex. And so we were doing, percentage of completion, we were doing retainage, AIA documents. So it was a great experience all the way around. And it was also really challenging for me to work with the field people, but I understand now, why there's so many
Mhm.
issues in the construction because of you're having to depend on those field guys to, relay all this information and documents and everything. So I kind of walked in those shoes, so I feel like I have a better like a genuine experience knowing,
Nice.
how hard it really is to get them to cooperate.
Yeah.
So
So in 20 you said in 21 is that when you also quit your job as well and started your own
yeah.
firm?
Yeah. So in 2020, my boss let me go to part-time. And
Okay.
so I was kind of like working more on my business. And he was also, because he didn't want me to go, but at the same time he knew that's what I wanted. And so he was really gracious and he worked with me, and he let me kind of go part-time. And then I had hired somebody who came in. And so I was kind of cross-training them so that when I officially left in 2021, they would be ready to handle the majority. I still do the accounting part, but that's the only piece that I really do. And even now we've trimmed off some of what, that accounting role is. So they're kind of doing a little bit more than they did originally.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. What about, kids? Anything like that?
No,
Hobbies?
no.
Anything?
I'm a fur mom. I got 4 fur babies. She's actually you see her tail walking by right now, but,
I love it.
no, we don't have any kids. So it's just me and fam. And,
Okay.
got a yeah, I got a couple aunts, that are still, my mom's sisters that are up here, so we do tons of stuff with them. And, um, we do like to travel a bit. My one sister lives with me now up here. My other sister is still in Florida, so, we don't get to see her as much as we'd like, but, you know, it is what
You
it is.
mentioned that your sister works alongside you, right?
Yeah, Michelle is my bookkeeper, and I think she started with me back in, like, 2022. And
Okay.
so she's been studying accounting. And I can't remember what her degree is in. I don't think it's not accounting, or business administration.
Okay.
But she's really good at, she loves puzzles, and she's really good at cleanups. And so when we just finished this monster cleanup, and I mean, the majority of it was her, kind of digging in and figuring it out. And um, so it's been great. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I know not everybody has a family dynamic like that. You work together, you live together, and then you want to, you know, do everything else together. But
I wanna get away from myself sometimes.
right. Yeah, but no, it's great. I really like it.
That's awesome. No,
Um,
it definitely sounds like a real, tight-knit family, which I
yeah.
absolutely, I love. I definitely try to build the same for my family as well. My wife on my wife's side, she has, a pretty big family, a lot of aunts, uncles, stuff like that, and so really trying to embed the kids in, like, that family kind of a support system because I remember a long time ago when I was a cool little teenager that didn't want mom or dad around, right? I
Yeah,
remember my dad telling me like, "Hey, listen, like your friends, they can kind of be here today and gone tomorrow, just depending on circumstances." He said, "But your family, they're gonna be there
there
thick and
forever.
thin, better or worse."
Yeah, and there's a
um,
there's a big age gap between, my middle sister and I. We're about, 5.5 years apart, and I'm the oldest, and then
okay.
my baby sister, we're 6.5 years apart. So,
Gotcha.
there's
I'm the
there's
oldest
a
too, so I know that, all the responsibility falls on the eldest
Yeah.
child.
Yeah.
Well, let me kind of get to a point here, Wendy, where you were running your firm, you had kind of branched out on your own, moved from Florida to Tennessee. Um, Sounds like business was slowly, picking up over that time period. I think you were around 20, 25 clients or so, right? By the time the acquisition happened. But I remember us initially talking, and I remember you telling me, like, look, I'm in the middle of I think it was kind of there were talks already of losing a pretty material client as far as revenue is concerned, and, you were at a point where it was like, "Man, should I go and try to scratch and claw my way for a few more clients to try and make up for that, or should I go the acquisition route?" Can you kinda talk about what was going through your head at that point in time when the news of the big loss was coming?
Yeah, I had known for about 8 months that my role with that particular client was gonna be changing because they had merged with, a corporate, another corporation, and they had everything that I was doing, so they didn't need me, but they could use me through the transition. So I thought when it originally happened, I might have 3 months with them, and so I had started then kind of scrambling and, like, trying to think, "What can I do? How can I get business?" And nothing was really, um, happening on that side, and part of the problem, which I mean, part of the
It's
challenge, I
hard to
should
get
say,
clients, right?
it's hard. It is hard, yeah, and, I didn't ever spend the time to kinda dig in and figure out, who do I really wanna work with? What am I best suited for? How can I work? It was just like I would take whatever I could get, and sometimes that wasn't always great because I would spend so much time doing the work that I didn't have time to really invest in, other acquisitions or finding clients or doing, kind of really getting clear in my head, um, where I should go. Because, my original thinking was a client is a client. A client is money. I'm going to take whatever I can get. And kind of in the last 6 months or so, I've kind of changed that opinion because sometimes you got to take clients because you need the money, but at the same time,
Right.
um, it would be better, I think, in the long run 'cause I'm sure like you have these couple clients that they're not the right fit, you do all this stuff you work extra hard for them and they're not really what you need or what you
They're
want,
never
and so
impressed, they're always angry for something,
yeah,
yeah, no, you can never impress them, but you feel like maybe because early on they kinda came on board with you and they've kind of
yeah,
been there, it's kinda like, well, they've been a faithful client, I feel bad about raising their rates or whatever, but you're right, your time should be the priority above all other decisions.
yeah, and I also found that my energy level, you I have to manage my energy, more so than the money coming in, like, I have to b I know there is a balance, but when I am just completely burnt out, because I'm working 10 or 12 hours a day, most days a week, because I'm trying to keep up, I'm trying to make things happen. And that one large client took, you know, 30 to 40 hours a week of my time.
Oh.
And then I was still doing things on top of it, other client work.
Wow.
So it was great money and they are a great client, but it didn't allow me to have the headspace to do anything else. And so,
Mhm.
um, that was part of my problem too, is I never could dedicate enough time to really getting any traction on that whole client, um, getting new clients, challenge or, to do. And
Yeah.
so, when I got, I guess it was towards the beginning of the year, I was like, I have to get serious. Like, I know this is coming. I'm on borrowed time, and so I really started to feel that a little bit of anxiety, like, I gotta make something happen
Mhm.
because this is a huge chunk of my income.
Right.
And so, I think I had seen maybe an ad of yours, like a couple months before that. And I had talked to my sister and I was like, do you think we should try like to buy a business? And she was like, is it that easy? And I was like, I don't know. And so
There's
I
this
think I
goofy guy online that's saying it is.
yeah, so I think that's maybe how I originally started. I maybe had seen a couple Instagram or something, and I was like, well, maybe. And then I was at my sister's in Florida, and I was scrolling on Facebook, and this lady had announced that she wanted to sell her business and wanted to know if anybody was interested. And I was like, I don't know, Facebook is a little, and so I was like, well, it's just a like a message, right? I mean, what's the worst that could happen? So I messaged her, and the next day I got an email and she said, thank you for your interest. And I thought it was like, I've already got somebody, never mind, But when I read a little bit more, she said, I would be interested in knowing about your background, what you're looking for. And so it was kind of that initial conversation. And so I responded. And it was probably a week later that she said, um, I'd like to talk, maybe have a Zoom call and kind of get to know you and kind of just start the a whole thing. And so I was like, oh, okay, this is potentially like real, right? And so I think at that point, I don't think I had reached out to you yet because I think we had our first conversation. And she said that she was actively working with, I think she said she had 7 other people that were interested that she was talking with and having calls with. And we spent probably about an hour and a half, on the call. And no, I had to have met you before then because you had given me advice. That's right.
Yeah.
So it must have been scheduled. So our
Right.
call with the potential seller was scheduled, and then I
I
talked to
remember
you.
when we talked, Wendy, you were going like 100 miles an hour. You were like, listen, I don't know if this is real, but I have an opportunity and I don't want to mess it up if it is real.
Yeah.
Like, I need to know what I need to say, what I don't need to be saying. Like, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I love all this energy.
Yeah. It hasn't really changed much. But yeah, so you gave me some great advice. I remember you saying like, because I had a whole list of questions I was going to ask, and it was only about the business, and you were like, hold up. That's not where you start. And so I'm so glad, that you had shared that with me. And so, the advice was, to really try to get to know the seller personally on a personal level. Let the
Right.
business stuff that'll come up naturally at some point, but you don't need that on this first call. And I was I was nervous going into the call, but as soon as I got on the call, I was fine. And I don't know if it's just because she and I felt like we vibed like right
Yeah.
away. Now we had a lot of things in common, similar time frame, similar business size, similar client mix, and and of course she's super nice. She's a great lady. She's a great mom and a super wife, and she's a granny now, so she's super excited about that. And so, we just vibed right away. And,
Yeah.
I got off that call and I was like, "Is it this easy? Like, this feels easy." And so, but it went really well. And so we had I think a week went by, and then, we had another conversation. I think we had another phone call, and it was about the same time frame, and it went just as well. And at that point, I was asking more. She had shared, some financials, her client mix and the revenues, annual and monthly revenue, and just kind of some general information about that client. And,
Mhm.
after that, it was probably another week or so, we had one more call, and she said that, you know, she sent an email out to everybody that was still that she had been talking to and said, "Hey, if you're interested in making an offer, I need it by this date and this time." And so I was
Mhm.
like, "Okay, this is real." And it's funny, my family is they're really great about like making me think through because they're always like, "Mm-mm, no, don't whatever it is, don't do it,
Yeah.
And so I was like, no, I feel really good about this. And, I felt peace about it. I'm a believer. And so I was praying about
Mhm.
it. And I was like, I really feel like this is, this is what I feel like this is what I'm supposed to do. And, so I sent her an LOI, and I also included a transition plan where I kind of like took the frame, like the timeline of when if it closed, then this is kind of the next steps and the dates and the time it would take to do this stuff. And because I wasn't really sure else to like what I was supposed to give to her.
Right.
So it took her, I think, a week to decide, and she sent the email, and I was, like, overjoyed, you know? And so then, she said, "Let me have a call. I wanna have a call with you." She said, "I've got it down to 2 people." And then she said on the call, she's like, "When could we sign the LOI? Like, if I did an LOI, when could we close?" And I said, well, I would be ready. Like, there's nothing holding me back except for, whatever the bank I have to get, the loan or whatever,
Mhm.
and then just our due diligence. And so she said, well, if we can close by May 1st, I'll sign your LOI. And I was like, okay, we'll sign by May 1st. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
she sent it back the next day, and then that's when due diligence started. And she said that I was the only one that offered a transition plan, that offered any kind of like, because she had a lot of questions how things were going to be handled. And so it really, which was
Mhm.
good, 'cause it made me think like, okay, now if I get these clients, what am I going to do? Like, what is the process to kind of
Right.
integrate and really start um,
Yeah.
that whole process. And so,
Yeah.
I kinda got ahead of myself because I was able to kind of think out, and then, of course, it didn't work at all. Like, my transition, even it was just completely like I'm still, like, on parts of it, I'm still, like, on phase 1, so um, it didn't happen exactly like I was
It
hoping,
it
but
it always, goes a different way than you have on paper.
yeah, 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 but, so,
No,
yeah,
that's
so
good. I mean, Wendy, I think, one thing I wanna kind of zero in on for people, watching is you were I think if I'm not mistaken, you said she mentioned, like, 7 offers or
mhm.
having entertained 7 different
Yeah, she was
offers.
talking to 7 different people, and I think she had 7 different offers. And,
Okay.
one was, like, really crazy. She was telling me one was really crazy, and then it was, like, $20,000 the lady had offered her, and she was like, "Mm,
Oh,
no."
wow.
Yeah. So, um,
Wow.
I'm not sure what what that potential buyer was thinking, but
Ouch. Well, but and what I wanted people to hear was you don't have to be necessarily all the time the first one to the party, right? Wendy was number 8 basically, by the time she even entered the room, and somehow or other, number 8 ended up being number 1.
Mhm,
That magic right there is something that Wendy was talking about because Wendy and I spent, I mean, a good amount of time, like,
mhm.
breaking down the conversation that needed to be had with the seller, like, to a granular level, and I mean, this was all Wendy, she knocked it out of the park, but, when she came back and told me it was an hour, hour and a half conversation or whatever it was, I'm like, "Yes, there's something here." Um, Wendy, one thing that I was very big about even before your first kind of big conversation with the seller was, and I kept telling you this, was like, if you guys don't click, then I probably wouldn't do this deal. I need you guys to have that vibe that you told me that you guys ended up having, because there are so many times during the closing process, the diligence process, post-closing processes where you need their help, and if you guys aren't gelling and vibing, they're gonna kinda minimize how much help they're giving you, right? And it's just gonna make it a much more difficult experience for the buyers. So, I just wanted to zero in on that, Wendy. You kind of really mastered how to, I guess, get the rapport building and kinda bring her walls down, more so than everybody else who I'm sure was doing what you were about to do before we chatted, right? Which was, I have 30 questions here, all about the business, and 0 questions about who this person genuinely is, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And what about the seller? I mean, kind of giving us a little bit. I mean, she's great, right? Is she, like you said, grandma and stuff like that? I mean, it sounds like you guys were just, 2 peas in a pod very quickly with each other.
Yeah, we're the same age, around about the same age, and we started our businesses around about the same time. We have about the same kind
Wow.
of clients, and I mean, it was just all these things, all these synchronicities that were just I felt like it was just like another confirmation, like, this
Yeah.
because if she had a group of like, I don't know, I can't think of any clients that I haven't worked with before. I think I would have taken pause because even though bookkeeping is bookkeeping, if you have, some industries are super like if she had a bunch of nonprofits, I don't think I would have gone forward with it because I don't have much experience with that. And
What did your family say now that you're on the other side of
they're like,
this
"Oh my
thing where
gosh,
they
it's
thought you
so
were weird at first?
yeah." They were like, "No, this is a bad deal." I'm like, "Are you sure you want it? That's a lot of money." And I was like, "Yeah, no, I mean, relatively, it's not that much money compared to these other deals that people are doing in the group. It's not big at all. It's a baby
Right.
deal. But to me, that's a lot of money. But
Hey,
yeah,
it doubled your firm basically, right? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
basically on the number of clients that you guys had. So Wendy, let's jump into the deal a little bit. Let's dive into some of the meat and potatoes of the deal here. I guess first and foremost, I want everybody to know, correct me if I'm wrong though, Wendy, you were $0 down on this acquisition, right?
correct. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome, awesome.
It,
So
yeah,
not only did she double her firm, she didn't have to come out of pocket any money. And like, I just like Wendy, somebody out there is going to hear this and they're gonna think you and I are paid actors and that that we're paid to say these things. But I mean, can you kind of confirm for people that you in fact didn't put anything out of pocket?
yeah. That's true. I didn't. I was surprised. I went this SBA route, and
Mhm.
you gave me a referral, and I met with the banker, and I filled out the documentation and the request, and I mean, I had good credit, so I wasn't worried about that. And the deal cash flowed using that cash flow sheet, so I felt
Yep.
comfortable with that. And it really, in terms of a loan, I didn't think it was that much money. So I kind of all those things kind of added up. So I felt comfortable, and I got approval. I think I sent the application, and I had approval like in 2 days. And then it was just a matter of getting. I had to get some documents from the seller. I can't remember what they were now, and of course, I had to provide a bunch of documents as
Mhm.
well, tax returns and things like that. But the process was really smooth and pretty straightforward.
Mhm.
Um, and I had asked for a working capital loan as well. So I thought, what the heck, I might as well just go ahead and put that in there. Um, because I wasn't sure. There was a contractor that the seller was using.
That's
And
right.
I knew I couldn't bring her on long term, but I was thinking that maybe through part of the transition. So originally it was going to be 30 days. Now that we're into it, we've extended it another 30 days.
Okay.
But now the second, 30 days is specifically for 2 clients. Those are her biggest clients, and so I wanna get really dialed in on those clients.
Got you. Got
Um,
you.
and then I might do
No,
it
that worked.
another 30 days after that. But
That's
yeah, so the
perfect.
working
I love
capital
to
helped.
extend that transition as much as we can.
Yeah, yeah, and the seller has been super helpful. We've had some bumps along the way. We've one client, so it was a block of 20 clients. One client had already been non-responsive, and I knew about that before the deal. And then once we closed, we decided that she would make the calls to all the clients to tell them that a transition had happened. And then she followed it up with an email. And then I came behind her and sent an email and said, please schedule a time to meet with us. I'd love to get to introduce myself
Gotcha.
and get to know you. And,
Mhm.
uh, I've met with about half of the clients so far, and
Okay.
we've only had 2. One was there was a really bad meeting. He didn't like me. I don't know why. But he came out of the gate just scorched earth. Like he was like,
Really?
yeah, he was, and I don't know. I'm not quite sure if it was. The, I don't know what the deal was, but
I've had plenty of those, by the way.
he was, yeah, he was a bit of a pill, but, we'll come to find out he was gonna disengage anyway, and it just so happened that, they're gonna disengage next month, and so, anyway, I don't know if there's some, frustration or what before, but anyway, so we got off that call and, I was a little taken aback because that was just
Right.
weird. And then the other client that disengaged, he wanted to have somebody in person. He's an older gentleman, and so he likes to have, if there's a problem, he wants to be able to come into the office and talk about it. And he's wherever he is, and I'm in Tennessee, and so it's just not going to work.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
which was sad because those were two larger clients.
okay,
But it is what it is. I told the seller and I were both kind of bummed, but I was like, it is what it is.
yeah.
We but at the same time,
Well,
some of the
you
same
have some
clients,
parameters in place too, that
yeah,
kind of helps. And so
yeah.
yeah, so let's get to numbers. How much was the purchase price?
So it was 140,000,
Okay, 140,000, and at the time, how much revenue were you buying?
103,000 annual revenue.
103,000 recurring annual revenue, right? Whether it was monthly or whatever.
Mhm.
Okay, and then of the 140, um, there was a percentage that was on seller financing. How much
Yeah,
percentage
we
did we
did
have
a
in seller?
$35,000 seller's note.
Okay,
That
okay,
has
35,000.
it was a 5-year agreement at 5%, and,
Okay.
it and then there was the clawback. So if
Mhm.
annual revenue dropped more than 10% of the purchase price, then we've got a mechanism where we can reduce, dollar for dollar, whatever
The
that revenue
seller
that we
note.
lost. Yeah.
Yep, against the seller note. Yeah, so for those that are watching that are like, "What did Wendy just say?" Like, she's talking Chinese right now. What she's saying is there's a provision that we put in her deal where revenue's floating where it's been floating, and Wendy is saying, "Look, there's no reason it should just tank just because I'm the owner now." And so within about 10% kinda threshold comfortability level, if we go below basically 90% of whatever the revenue expectations are, I'm going to start reducing the seller note, that 30 grand or 35 grand that Wendy said. I'm going to start reducing that dollar for dollar until we get all the way to zero. This creates, and Wendy, I'm curious your thoughts on this. This creates a really good incentive for the seller to try to keep as many clients as possible for you and to maybe even bring new clients to you as well. So, Wendy, with this kind of clawback, this forgivable clause in there, have you maybe seen a little more oomph in the seller trying to keep clients, trying to transition them, and maybe even bringing in new business?
Yeah, for sure. The one gentleman, um, uh, the one client, she had called him and he said, I'm disengaging as of, today. And she was like, why? And he's like, I have concerns. And she was like, what are they? And so she was trying to kind of drag them out of him. And he didn't really give any specifics. And she said, please at least meet with her, before you make your decision. Obviously, you can do whatever you want, but at least give her an opportunity. And so I felt like she's gone to bat for me several times. And
Mhm.
that was one example. And then we've got some billing challenges. And so she's helping me work through those and some things I didn't anticipate. And, in my mind, it's always like, this is going to work out in this way. And I never give myself like, okay, well, what if this doesn't happen? Or what if this, so I don't ever give myself enough,
Yeah,
runway to kind of like think about what could happen and how I should plan for that. So one of the challenges is when we've met with the client on like a Zoom. So it'll be the client and the seller and I, and we do the introductions and everything's fine and they want to move forward. And then we got to get them to change the QuickBooks access to, the because everybody's in QuickBooks Online, all of the clients that we
mhm,
bought. And so you got to go in there and you got to click that little thing and change the accounting firm. And we did that. We didn't do that in the very beginning. I don't know why I didn't think about it, but it didn't even occur to me that I should do it while we're on the call. And so now it's like, it's just things are dragging on. And so I can't, when you don't have that right access, it creates issues. I mean, the seller has shared the access with me through her QuickBooks, but it's not the
right,
same. And so
right.
then it creates problems down the line on my side and the invoicing and then the billing and then, on and on and on. So,
Yeah.
um,
Challenges of running a firm and merging a firm and
yeah,
transitioning over.
yes,
So
yeah,
so Wendy, on this deal, 0 down, 30 grand, 30 or 35 grand in seller
thir
financing?
35, so, yeah,
35 in seller
35,000
financing, the
finance.
rest, obviously, payable by the bank, 0 by you. Did the seller have any issues with your deal setup, your structure? I know a lot of people, when I talk to a lot of people and they're in the midst of about to offer, like I think on our last mastermind call, we had Roger build his offer right in front of everybody. But like sometimes buyers are very concerned with like, I don't want to offer something that offends. Like I don't want to offend, right? Was there anything about your deal here that the seller had any qualms with?
Well, I asked her directly on the last call that we had before I submitted my before I submitted my purchase idea. I asked her, what are you looking for specifically? I don't want to be, I want to be where you want. And so she said she wanted 120 to 150. And I said, okay. And so I think when we talked, I was going to offer like 138 and you said take it to 140 and then put in there a seller's note for 35,000. And so I said, okay. And so once she got the LOI. Then we talked again, and she had never heard of a seller's note. So I walked her through what it was. She asked about the percentages and the time frame. She wanted to know if we could shorten it, to like 3 years and like 10% or something like that. And so, and we had talked, and you had said that the SBA likes to see a seller's note on a loan like this because it shows the bank that the seller is still going to be involved because she's got some skin in the game and that,
Yep,
she's gonna help do things that, would help us, kind of maintain the same, income level so that we can make that payment, because they want that
right,
money.
right.
And so that was really the only thing that we talked about, and in the end, she agreed to it. So she said, "You
Yeah,
know what? If it's gonna help, I don't wanna, um, I don't wanna impede that process." And so that was really the only thing, and the other thing that she was really adamant on was closing quickly, and I wanted to, and I did everything I could, but the attorney piece of it
yep,
really slowed me down. And, she's in Alabama, I'm in Tennessee, and my initial company was created in Florida, where I used to live. And so I had reached out to a couple different I reached out to a bunch of attorneys, and only 3 of them called me back. Um, but they were like, "We can't help you with that. It's too small," or, "That's not really something that, we do." And so I was scrambling for weeks to even get, an attorney to
mhm,
submit something through, and so I was getting a little bit desperate, and, I got somebody gave me a referral. He was somebody that I had called, an attorney that I had called. He called me back, I told him what I needed, and he's like, "Oh, talk to this attorney." And so that's the one that I ended up going with, and she was in Alabama, and, she was great. But I couldn't believe how long it took. I was like, "This is a simple deal," I don't know why we have to, go through all this. I just didn't have a clue as to what was involved, I mean,
Well,
that's why I'm a bookkeeper.
and there's probably more layers that you were able to avoid just because of the size of the deal,
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
probably definitely got away with a few different things, but yeah, there's a lot of hoops to jump through, and I tell people all the time, "Listen, there's a lot of benefit to the SBA." Wendy received working capital, to kind of sustain through operations, as she's getting off the ground. Obviously, she had to come out of pocket 0 money out of her own dollars, which is also amazing, but they're gonna have a lot of paperwork and a lot of processes that they're gonna make you go through. So as you stand right now, Wendy, in your firm, having basically acquired and now doubled in size, what do you feel are, or I should say, were some of your biggest fears before the acquisition? And what do you feel are some of your biggest challenges now that you've done the acquisition?
I think, absorbing like, doing that knowledge transfer to make sure that we can handle the clients in the same way that they've been accustomed to being handled. Because I didn't wanna rock the apple cart, and I think and the seller was really adamant too about, "Listen, these are good people, they need to be treated well," and I completely agree. And so everybody does their stuff a little bit differently, and so it was just kind of like trying to kinda get my arms wrapped around how are we gonna
Mhm.
do this? I think that was the one of the biggest challenges. I was not prepared, I think I guess I was just naive in thinking everybody was gonna come over, all this things are gonna happen, kinda like they should, and we're just gonna do bookkeeping, right? We're gonna meet clients, we're gonna do bookkeeping, and it wasn't that it's not that at all. It's kind of
Yeah.
the same thing, like, with the seller. I should have put it together, like, I need to meet these clients. I need to, see if I can win their trust,
Mhm.
and try to, make them comfortable that the transition is not gonna hurt them at all. It's not gonna change anything on their end, that they're still gonna have the same service, they're still gonna have the same pricing, that everything is gonna kinda stay the same, and most of the clients that I've talked to have been fine with that, and they're like, "Hey, everything's good. We're happy with the service, things are going well, but could you add this?" Or, so it gave me kind of an opening so that, some of the things that I wanted to do in my firm I haven't been able to do yet, they're asking for it. Like I've had
Mhm.
two that have asked me for some advisory services. Um, and so I think the challenge right now is that knowledge transfer and, retention. Like, I didn't think retention was as gonna be as kinda prickly as it is. I thought, you know, "What's the big deal?" You're just coming over, we've already done the work for you. You've got a great bookkeeper. You had a great bookkeeper. You got another good bookkeeper. So there's, don't worry about anything, and some
Right.
people don't feel that way. Some people are like,
Right.
no, I do feel that way. So,
Yeah.
that was a lesson I had to learn too, is that, I needed to take time to kind of bond with them as well.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think retention and building that trust and then that knowledge transfer are really the
Yeah.
biggest challenges
I
now.
always I always tell, anybody that has just done an acquisition or they're about to, whatever it is, I always view it like this. Day 0 of having of owning the new firm, you are at maximum risk because your um, knowledge transfer is at 0, basically.
Mhm.
And so if the seller were to leave right away, immediately, you're at high, high, high risk. Now, every day that goes by, we need to be doing knowledge transfer. And as that knowledge transfer happens, that risk starts to go down to the point where one day you're going to feel comfortable saying, hey, like, I would love for the seller to stay around for as long as possible. But should they need to leave for whatever reason, we're okay. Like, we're rocking and rolling. We don't really expect to have any big hiccups anymore. That's where you can become really confident and almost risk free at that point. Like, you have done the transition at that point when you feel like you
Mhm.
can stand on your own. And if the seller were to leave, you're not going to suffer anything. But people forget about that. And what they do is they leave the seller kinda doing their thing, maybe a couple teammates that are doing their thing, and they don't ever extract the knowledge from him, and then one of them leaves. I just talked to a guy the other day, who he said he had basically his right and left hand left together, and he had given all control to them, and he went from, like, $850,000 in revenue to, like, $350,000 in revenue.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah. So knowledge transfer, getting it on documentation, SOPs. I was just talking with Brandon earlier about this. Like, there's a reason why the major leagues has the minor leagues. It's because we're constantly bringing new people in, developing new people, and eventually, if the majors, have to leave, then you got people to replace them. So I think as a firm owner now, and as you've just doubled, things that you need to start thinking about is what does my team look like? What does knowledge transfer look like? Not just from the clients to you, the new clients to you, but what about my team? Like, are they cross training? Right? Because that mitigates a lot of risk. Somebody falls ill and they can't come to work for 2 months or whatever, like, whatever it may be. So these are some of the things, Wendy, right, as you're moving forward that I'm gonna want you to start thinking about. But here's a question for you, very interesting question. When you said you were in Florida scrolling, saw my goofy face somewhere, but did you think, like, was even when we talked, like, did you think doing an acquisition for $0 down was actually a real thing?
No, because everybody says that. No, it's like, "You can do this." No, I didn't. I did not. I did not. Because it's impossible, right? Everything costs money, and
Yeah.
so I really didn't. I was
So
clever.
if somebody came to you right now and says, "I don't believe you, Wendy," like, what's your response to that person?
I did it. It's true. I think it's the way you build the deal, right?
Right.
It's the I mean, I think part of it was the, being able to have that seller's note,
Mm,
and kind of finding the right SBA lender. I think that probably was key as well.
mhm,
Um, and to have somebody like you that can say, "Listen, it is real, and this is how we can do it," to
right,
help figure out all the pieces that you need
right.
to make it happen.
So that's a good question. We had kind of talked before, before the podcast, a little bit about, there's a Wendy out there, so to speak, right? That might have just lost a big client like you were dealing with, or maybe they're just struggling to get clients, because as you mentioned, and I agree, it's hard to just go get clients, like I know all the ads online make it seem like they're gonna make it rain with leads and you're gonna have all the clients in the world. It doesn't work like that. Um, but what are you saying to that person that's in their moment of struggle right now? They're at a crossroads, obviously, of what they wanna do. Maybe they've heard I mean, most people have heard of acquisitions, right, in some way, shape, or form, but maybe they've kind of just left that as a limiting belief. It's not real. Maybe it's only for other people, special people. What's your advice to that person that's on the fence of joining the community, not joining the community? It's real, it's not real. Like, what's your advice to that person?
I think you have to kind of put aside any anxiety or concern about what might happen or what might not happen. One of the challenges that I have is being visible. Like I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to be on a podcast. I don't want to, I don't want to be in a group call setting, but I realized before I joined that part of part of my growth is going to have to be visible. I'm going to have to reach out. I'm going to have conversations. And some things may not come back. If a Facebook post is not a hard thing to do, but it does lead to the other hard parts, like having conversations, knowing what to say, being comfortable, kind of having that dialogue. And like I told you before, I'm really shy and I'm an introvert and I don't make small talk easily, and so all these things were like, this is all the reasons I can't even get started is because I can't even get to that first step, And so I think
Right.
instead of thinking about everything that you would have to do, just focus on the next step. So maybe that next step is joining a group like yours, or the next step
Mhm,
is coming up with a list of people that, either old clients that maybe you don't have anymore that you could reconnect with, or, other groups that, I know there's a lot of Facebook groups out there that they offer to sell blocks of clients. And that's kind of what I was thinking was that I would just buy a block if I couldn't find an acquisition. And so
mhm,
I think that's another helpful
for sure.
way to kind of grow because at that level, you're able to kind of manage your growth instead of like buying an entire company. Maybe there's a block of business, I mean, that's still an
Mhm,
acquisition. It's still like the next level up,
yep,
but, you know, find ways that you can just take the next small step. Just figure out like everybody's different and everybody has
yeah,
their own obstacles and challenges and they kind of get in their way, at some point. But for me, that's kind of what happened as I just was like, I'm just gonna do this and see what
mhm,
happens. And then
mhm.
when you're in it, then it's kinda like, "Okay, what am I gonna do now that I'm here?"
Yeah.
But
Oh, what
then
did I do?
you have yeah. But then when you have support or somebody you can call to say, "Hey, this is where I'm at. What do I do?" I think
Yeah,
that should, kind of reassure you that, it's okay to, because everybody's afraid of making mistakes or doing the wrong thing or, so having a group like this, like I said, it's even though I don't go to every single call, it's nice to, when I can, to listen to what other people are going through and kind of understand, okay, so they went through something similar, but they
mhm,
tried, they did this, that didn't work, but they tried this, or,
yeah,
this worked. So maybe you should try it. So I think
yeah.
um,
Definitely,
it's
no,
helpful.
definitely being in the right room with people. I always tell people, look, if you're trying to get, really, really fit, slim and trim, I mean, you probably need a trainer and you probably need a lot of other people that you're surrounding yourself with that are like gym, hardcore, all of that, right? It's the same with this, like, that frequency of acquisitions, not everybody has it, and that's okay if you don't have it, but if you are operating in that frequency of, "Man, maybe acquisitions is something I could maybe do or I wanna do," it's awesome to be in a room full of people. Like I was telling Wendy, just this past week, we built a $1.1 million offer letter of intent together on our mastermind call, right? Like it's just so much value that we get from just live Q&A and live breakdowns like that. But no, Wendy, I'm really glad that you have seen a lot of value working with me, working in the community, getting to know other members and stuff like that. I can tell you this, you are an inspiration. Not only to our members and everything that they're doing, but also to everybody watching and everybody listening. Right? I know that somebody's listening right now that's like, Wendy, like you are my story, like you are my avatar, and this is so motivational for me. I have a question for you, Wendy. I mean, I know that right now you're kind of, letting the dust settle still, 26 days in, I guess, from having done your first acquisition here, but I'm just curious because I know the wheels never stop turning. What's next for you? What do you see in the next 12 to 24 months for you?
Oh, I definitely want to do another acquisition. I've got some ideas for some growth in some certain areas. So I want to focus on real estate and commercial. I mean, real estate and commercial construction are kind of where my niche is, and I like those because they're challenging, industries to work in, and they're not really easy like, a brand new bookkeeper would have a super hard time coming in and trying to figure that stuff out, you know? So,
Right,
I kinda feel like, with AI and all of all of the things that are happening there, I wanna find some I know it's hard to find an industry that won't be affected by AI, but
for sure.
I feel like, focusing on those 2 industries for sure, will provide me a lot of opportunity. We're gonna try to expand. I'd like to get, 3 to 5 more back office clients, kinda doing the CAS practice or the CAS practice. I had 2 that we consider back office. Now I'm down to 1. So I'd like to get, and like I said, an additional 3 to 5, because, I think, that's really good money, and it's really good anchor too, because those kind of clients don't typically it's not necessarily about the money, it's the support that they need, and so it's not a
Yeah,
quick decision to say, "Okay, we can cut this or cut that." So it's a
yeah,
real because we're integrated into their team, into
for
their
sure.
company. So
Yeah.
yeah, so those, and then, my bookkeeper really wants to do more cleanups, and so, I'm
Oh,
probably gonna have to hire another bookkeeper so that she can focus on all the cleanup work that we're gonna try to go after, but, so that's another, I would say probably starting the beginning of the year, next year, we can focus on that, on cleanups and advertising and starting to market towards that,
yeah.
um, and then, of course, I'd like to buy, at least 1
Are
more,
you let me I'm curious if there's a I know it kinda depends what kinda comes your way, but ideally, are you looking for another $150,000 tuck-in type of acquisition, or are you like, "Man, maybe what does a half a million with a team look like," or where are you at?
I'm comfortable on the smaller side. I like to kinda step it up as opposed
Okay.
to kinda taking on 40 or 60. I mean, going through what we went through now, like, I underestimated what that integration piece looked like, and so,
Uh-huh.
unless I could maybe if I could build some support on my side that could help with that, because right now it's really just me doing all of the integration piece of it. So,
Oh, I
maybe if I
see.
had, another maybe another person that could kind of be dedicated to that part of it, then maybe I could do a bigger deal, but I think given the situation, I would just be comfortable at that, like, $150,000 level. Um,
Okay.
another 20 clients. I think that for us, I
Yeah.
think that's doable. Um, because
Okay.
I mean, even
What
with just 20 clients, it seems like it's a lot of a lot of integration.
Well, I'll tell you, Wendy, the reason you're probably feeling a little more, um, constraint maybe, on capacity, is because you kinda did the acquisition Um, and then the support staff maybe didn't expand the way it needed to. Right?
Mhm.
It was kinda like, just bring it on my current roster,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
we'll get it done. Well, the math is the math, right? I mean, there's
Yeah.
certain hours that everybody needs on top of, as you mentioned, onboarding and getting to know clients and transitioning and all of that. So, you're right, that is a whole task in and of itself. Getting the actual work done is a whole 'nother task in and of itself. Um so I think that's probably why you're feeling a little constrained, but I would say just you're right, like, we need to expand capacity a little bit, and
Mhm.
then maybe if the next one, like, I know you want it more on the small side, but work the numbers in. If nothing else, it can be a small firm, but don't view all that money's coming to you, right? I gotta pay debt service. I have to hire somebody, at minimum 1 person, a decent salary, and then I can look at, is there enough cash flow left to put in my own pocket? And now you're becoming a manager of the staff, right? A true
Mhm.
owner and manager of the staff versus sometimes we got to put that production hat on and we got to get to work right now, right? So that's
Yeah.
how you'll start to slowly, because look, we all have limits. I mean, like I
Mhm.
talked to another person who, I mean, I can't even make this up. She does $1,700, 1,700 tax returns every year. And she said, I literally work every, like 7 days a week. I work all throughout the year because it's her and some little assistant that she has who's not
Yeah.
really a tax person. So, like, you can only get so far, and then we gotta ask about quality of life, like, if you can't smile, like,
Right.
there's just no reason to be going down that route. So, yeah, I want you to keep these things in mind. Obviously, we will continue talking and building. Um, Final words, Wendy. Is there anything you'd like to say to, even to the ladies out there, right? Girl power here, but is there
Yeah.
anything you'd like to say to people out there just as we're wrapping up here?
I think, you've gotta take the risk. I mean, it's calculated risk, but you gotta do it. I mean, if you're really interested in growing and, not even just growing your company, but growing yourself, and kind of leaning into other areas of your own growth and challenge, and owning a business challenges you in every single way, personally.
Mhm.
And I know that some of that for me personally, there's certain areas that I really need to focus on, and having this business is exposing those areas, and saying, okay, if we're going to go to the next level, we need to do these couple things here, and but I would just say, try it, try to find something and do it because it always amazes me that it kind of when you're first thinking about or when I'm first thinking about something, I'm like, can it really happen? I don't know. I don't know if it's real, And then looking, I mean, I just started this back in February of this. That's like
Yeah.
when the like end of February till today,
Yeah.
and I, I'm, I'm
But
super
people
stoked.
but people, the way they talk themselves out of it is they'll say Wendy is just a special class of person who just has this genius about her, and I could never do what Wendy did. Like, that's what they're thinking to themselves.
And I'm just a bookkeeper who wanted more clients and more money, more revenue coming in because I want to get, there's certain things that I want personally. And I
Yeah.
think the revenue too is a little bit of a vanity number, for me, because I want to see like, I've always been fascinated by construction, like, there was nothing there, and then 2 years later, there's a huge, huge building there, and
Right.
it's the same thing for me, it's like this business wasn't here, and now this is where we're at, I mean, we did this, we got this far, and,
Yeah.
I think it just takes the it makes you take the first step to say, "I'm gonna try something different.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try it," because that's what I did. I didn't know if it was gonna go or not, and,
Mhm.
I'm just a bookkeeper, I'm just a bookkeeper who wanted to try a little bit something different, and
Yeah.
I think with help, yeah, I didn't know what to do at first. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what kind of deal to put that. I didn't know what was appropriate. And so, again, coming back to you, you helped answer those questions so that I could put something together that was
Right.
eventually
Right.
accepted. So I think anybody can do it.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
No, Wendy, that's what I've been trying to tell people.
Yeah.
Wendy, as we're wrapping up, maybe you can let people know one more time, the name of your firm, the services you guys offer in case anybody's interested in working with you, and then maybe how they can find you, whether that's socials or an email or something, any way that people might want to reach out and talk to you.
Sure. Yeah, my firm is Oki Accounting Group, and the best way to get a hold of me is through email. So it's Wendy, Wendy at okieaccounting.com. And that's OKIE, like okie dokie.
I'm
Or
gonna
Okie
have
for.
it I'm gonna have it magically appear right
Okay.
under Wendy.
And I don't really do social media. So I mean I scroll and I stalk people on social media, but I don't really do anything on it. I don't really post anything anymore. I used to have an Instagram account, but I haven't kept up with it in a long time, and haven't really had the time either to do.
Okay, and if somebody wants to work with you in your firm, what
Yeah,
what kind of services can you
yeah.
offer?
So we offer, of course, standard bookkeeping service. We do payroll, sales tax. We offer back office services, so that kind of covers like if you don't have an accounting department, you could hire us, and we could kind of come in and take care of all the ins and outs of what you might need, and then, of course, we do 1099s and year-end prep, and we work with the CPAs to get packages together as well, for the clients or for the, tax returns.
Awesome,
So pretty
awesome. Well,
standard stuff.
Wendy, thank you so much, for giving us a little bit of time. I know you're crazy busy right now, and, guys, I had to get Wendy, like, booked out a month in advance. That's how busy she is, okay? So, but no, thank you so much. I think I know I sound like a broken record, and I know you don't wanna hear it, but just let it sink in for just a half second and feel good about yourself. You are a big inspiration to a lot of people that are listening to this, to other people in our group, to myself even. I just love everything about your story. Thank you so much. And we definitely want to have you back on as you continue building your empire. So we'll talk to you later, guys.
Great.
And remember, it's a cruel world, but we're better together.